Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! History with Joe Giorlando. In today's video, I am going to play Adam Corn's exact deck from the Shonen Jump Championship in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from the summer of 2008. Sean, on the other hand, is going to be playing Gladiator Beast, so we are going to be playing the very classic Prime Material Royal Oppression Monarch deck against the top deck at the time, Gladiator Beasts. In many ways, the deck that I'm running is designed to defeat Gladiator Beasts, so hopefully we'll see some of those interactions play out with Prime Material Dragon in the main deck, Royal Oppression, and then of course Prohibition out of the side deck. But I recently profiled this deck. I talked about how it's really designed to beat Gladiator Beasts, so we'll see what it's really like in action. Jump over to Unlimited, play Sean. I have no idea what kind of Gladiator Beast deck Sean is going to run. I just asked him to run Glad, so it could be kind of a variety of different versions, so we'll see. We'll see what he ends up running. Probably kind of bread and butter. I imagine he'll have Cold Wave in the deck, which is definitely one of the cards to consider. Cold Wave can be a difficult card to deal with. We have the Solemn Judgment, but so does he. Luckily, we have Prime Material Dragon, so that can start to stymie Cold Wave plays a little bit. So, anyway, we'll take a look at our opening hand here. Any opening hand with Reckless and Mask of Darkness is pretty nice. Royal Oppression's obviously really good. I have a safe turn 1 set. When I use the word safe in this matchup, what I'm talking about there is I can set Night Assailant and not worry about being blown out by Secutor. A card like Mask of Darkness, you actually do have to worry about Secutor. Like, for example, if I set Reckless and Oppression with Mask of Darkness, thinking that I can get the double Reckless greed early in the game, he could very easily exploit that. Okay, so we start with a set monster and a set back row. 2 back rows. Maybe he has Crush card. His deck does run Crush. Oh, wow. Double Reckless greed. This is a really good opening hand. Really good opening hand here. So I think what I'm going to do is set the double Reckless Oppression and still set the Night Assailant. Setting the Mask of Darkness is a little bit risky because it's actually not that risky, honestly. The risk of setting the Mask of Darkness is it's a lightning rod for things like Secutor. But even if he actually goes into Secutor into Herc, I actually have Night Assailant to kill it. I'm thinking about a universe where this Royal Oppression dies. It actually might be better to set the Mask of Darkness, because if he were to make a play that pops the Oppression, I'd rather on the following turn set Night Assailant rather than Mask of Darkness. And I could even bring back the Oppression if he pops it, depending on what exactly happens. So I think I'm actually going to go set Mask, and then set the double Reckless with the Oppression. I think having the Night Assailant for the following turn is a little bit safer. And if I'm forced to use the double Reckless during his turn, well, that's okay. I skip, obviously, the next 2 draw phases. It's a little bit inconvenient. You want to flip Reckless with Mask set on your turn. You don't really want to have to do it during your opponent's turn. Because I have double Reckless, I'm going to generate enough card advantage that way anyway. So it's not the absolute end of the world if that was what ends up happening. And then, like I said, if he has one of the plays that kills the Oppression, whether that's with a Dust Tornado in his deck or an MST or anything like that. Is he going to contact here? Yeah. So these get shuffled into the deck. I'm going to flip the Oppression. There's a chance here that this gets hit by Solemn Judgment, which I think is quite likely, which is fine. I don't have a response to that. I guess I'll pay my cost. Yeah, that's fine. This was another risk of setting the way I did, but I still think it was fine. This could have been a Sangin. The best Diari play is obviously one of the other pretty likely ones too. But like I said, I don't feel like I'm that far behind here. He's going to destroy probably. It doesn't really matter, honestly, what he destroys. Yep. And okay, he's going to destroy these 2 cards. So I will use the Reckless Greed. I assume he's not going to Solemn Judgment this, but give him an opportunity to do so, I guess, yeah. All right, so we draw Reaper, which is a blank in this matchup, and Dekoichi, which is really bad. Yeah, we didn't want to draw either of those. Imagine how different this game would have been if we went first. Just goes to show you the importance of the die roll. We'll see what happens, though. So I'll take the 2400, and he's going to go into double Acquire here. The problem here is I kind of need Soul Exchange and a Monarch or a Prime Material Dragon, so I'm a little bit away from having all of that. We'll see what happens. Yeah. If I had double oppression, one of the things I could have done was flip oppression prematurely, and then after that gets solemn, use the oppression on the Geysera summon. Obviously, that's not what happened, but that is something I could have done if I had double oppression. Sometimes you do use oppression almost in its pre-ruling way. If you watch my most recent deck profile, I talked about how with oppression, this was the first event, first real major event at least, where you could flip oppression as your opponent, for example, summons Geyseras. Yep. Sets another back row. Probably a card he drew, because if he had Solemn Judgment, he would have just been willing to set it on the first turn. It's not nice, but it's... Yeah, alright, so this is the first turn of Reckless Greed. Huh. Alright, the only thing I can... Well, I could summon the Valley. By summoning the Valley, it ends the battle phase if you were to declare an attack, which is obviously nice. Doesn't negate the attack, though. So he would be able to do something afterwards. The concern here is if he has another either Bestiari, but he also unfortunately can have Prisma, and he can have Test Tiger, and he can have Rhoda, or he can have the emergency call type cards to search the Prisma, or he can have Gladiator Proving Ground. So there's 7 or 8 cards that just get him access to Bestiari again next turn, which is obviously frustrating. No matter what, I'm going to set the MST. The question is, do I summon the Valley or do I set the Night Assailant? I feel like I'd rather summon the Cyber Valley because there is an out-of-drawing Soul Exchange with the Thestalos that might establish board dominance. I commented on that a lot in the video when I was talking about Gladiator Beasts, either in this profile or the profile of Glads, where the 2400 of a Monarch could stymie what he has going on. Granted, the Hop is actually pretty good. Yeah, this is worst case scenario there. Does he have game? He's going to have a 21 and a 24. He does have game because I don't get a draw, so that is definitely game. In terms of the siding, we're going to put in the prohibitions. That's what they're there for. Same thing with these Jiu-Jitsu Masters. We're going to side out the Reaper because it's dead. We're going to side out the Morphing Jar because it's pretty dead. The Dukoichis I don't want in the deck. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put in the Storm because his deck has, obviously, the Solemn Judgment, and that can be pretty good. I'll probably put in the Storm at least. Definitely these 5. I'm signing out 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe the Sangan. Signing out the Sangan is kind of weird because then I only have 2 targets for Crush Card Virus. Oh, I guess I have 4 because of the masks. That's probably fine. Sangan is one of those sort of hot rods, or lightning rods, or not hot rods, lightning rods for attacks of Gladiator Beasts, and I don't want to have a lot of those. I want to minimize that. So the guards are fine. The spies are okay. The Jiu-Jitsu Masters, we also have to consider that he's less likely to attack my face-down monsters because he knows Jiu-Jitsu Masters coming in, so that is something to consider also. The Book of Moons are good. The MST is good. Obviously the Judgments, Oppression, Reckless, the Bottomlesses are fine. Kind of want to put in the Crows, but I don't really want to take anything out. Cards to consider putting out of the Crows, the Storm, the Torrential, and even the Mind Crush. I like Mind Crush in this matchup, but I don't know if he's running Cold Wave. So maybe if we go to a game 3 and I see he's running Cold Wave, I'll put the Mind Crush in. I'll just go with this. So Prohibition is especially good because I can call Bestiari. And, well, speak of the devil, that's a good opening hand. Wouldn't mind drawing a Monarch, but this is a good hand. I'm going to Allure the Spy because I already have a good set in Jiu-Jitsu Master, and they're really, really redundant to have both of them. Oh, perfect. So we'll banish this, set the Jiu-Jitsu Master. We'll call Bestiari, which is what the main call is. Now we're insulated from that, and we'll set the Judgment and the Bottomless. This is a very, obviously, very strong opening hand. Very strong opening hand. We have the Prime Material. We even have Brain Control. So if you were to have, not that they were particularly popular, but maybe Nobleman. It would be inconceivable to actually start siding Nobleman because the Monarch deck became popular after Nationals. So even if you were to play something like Nobleman, I'd have Brain Prime Material. Granted, I would only have one other card in my hand if I were to use both of those cards next turn. Okay. Yep, that's fine. Yep. So this could be Hoplomys. This could be Sangan. Hopefully not Sangan. I really don't want to have to get hit by a Crush. It's not the end of the world, because at that point it just won for ones with Prime Material, but obviously he could have more going on than that, so that would be a little frustrating. We'll draw. Okay, the Oppression is good. Obviously very good. I don't know if I just want to shotgun tribute someone for the Prime Material Dragon. It's obviously strong to do that, but there's a chance that it gets hit by Solemn, and then I'm stuck with just Bottomless for protection. And there is a universe where I don't draw another good monster because I sided out a good chunk of them, and he actually just beats me down. There's a universe where that happens. Like, this could be any Gladiator beast, and he turns it into a 2100 Laquari. And then even if I draw something like Mask of Darkness, he can just keep attacking over it. So there is a little bit of a risk, because if I just shotgun this Prime Material and get hit by a Solemn, I kind of have to Solemn a Solemn, and I never want to Solemn a Solemn in that position because he has two other back rows. I might just set the Oppression and see if I can get that sort of plan B if my Prime Material play were to fall through. I'd much rather be put in a position where I Oppression something, he Solemns, and I Solemn that Solemn in that position. I feel like that might be useful. I don't want to make the proactive play, though, that gets hit by the Solemn. So I'm going to set the Oppression and pass. Let's see where that takes us. I want to have another monster, whether it's a decent set or another tribute monster, before I make that big investment. Because I'm also tributing a Jujutsu Master, which is obviously not especially valuable. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going to let this go. I could Solemn, but if he Solemn's back, that's not good. I want the Oppression now to be the card that sort of saves me, protects me, quote unquote. And if he has double Solemn, I mean, it just is what it is, right? But if he makes a special summon and I Oppression, and he Solemns and I Solemn, we'll be in alright shape. Alright, so Myrmelio is fine. Yep. Test Tiger is fine. Yep. Yep. I am going to Oppression that. Well, I think I Solemn this, because if he Solemns the Solemn and I can just Bottomless the Bestiary, I'm in okay shape. So I'm going to pay the 800, and I will Solemn his Solemn. 3,600. All right. Cool. He just sets a back row. Okay. Okay. Because he was going to get Bestiary there, and I could have just Bottomless the Bestiary. That's not especially good right now. So this isn't Solemn, and it's not a Dust Tornado type card. Well, it could be a Dust Tornado type card, actually, but he probably would have... maybe he would have prematurely used it. Maybe not, though. It's definitely not Solemn. Here, I think I might use Prime Material now that I have the Oppression that just survived. And I have 2 cards to discard to destruction effects. I think that's what I want to do, because he's never going to attack this Jujutsu Master. And he would have had to have drawn Solemn, and I feel like if he drew Solemn, he would have set it and then used it to protect the play that he just made, so I don't think this is Solemn. Alright, and we will attack, presumably, a Gladiator Beast. Okay, Sangan. That's a little annoying. Obviously, I wanted it just to be a dead Glad. Reaper. I guess Brain Control has a use there, and I'll pass. Yeah, Reaper, I guess, is a decent card, big picture. Stalls out a little bit against my deck. I could see that being decent. Alright, so we'll draw. Oh, that was pretty good. I don't have a flip effect in the grave, but if I were to put a flip effect in the grave, it works with Night Assailant. That's definitely interesting. I will attack this just to verify. I'm going to go back to main phase 1. I'm actually going to set first before attacking, and then just in case it was Morphing Jar, so he flipped it prematurely, but I was just going to set these to verify. I'm not going to play the Brain because I actually now have a good Night Assailant target, and then I can bottom Crush Card Virus, so I'm just going to pass with the board like this. Hold the Brain Control in my hand. If I were to use the Brain Control there, I also would have committed myself to keeping the Night Assailant and the Crush Card in my hand to save my Prime Material Dragon, which I obviously don't want to do. So now that that happened, I'm going to flip the Night Assailant to kill the Reaper. Let's see what he chooses to do. Is he at a point where he starts to just... He might flip Crush here, I guess? But is he at the point where he starts to just play Destruction cards to filter out my hand? Ooh, My Body's a Shield. That's pretty cool. Yeah, sure, that works. This kills it, right? Yeah. Alright, sure. Oh, I guess I could have chained Crush on the My Body. Yeah, I'm actually going to wait. Go back. Yeah, that makes obviously a lot more sense. Yeah, okay. Alright, now we'll end the turn. I don't think I get to keep Brain Control from there because... he draws Mirror Force, yeah, okay. So he's Hoplo and Mirror Force. Destroy monster paper and negate the activation. Okay. That works. Yeah, he has to start sending that to save his life points. Then we draw backup Oppression. Kill this. I guess I'll use Prime Material Dragon on that one. Okay, he admits defeat. Alright, going into the next game. It's interesting to think because, I mean, he definitely respected the Jiu-Jitsu Master, as he probably should, and he saw it. Makes it such that cards like Decoiter are a little bit better, but again, what do I want to take out? I'm Keep Crush, Force, Bottomless is good, obviously the Reckless Engine, the Solemns, all that. Book of Moons, really good. I guess Typhoon is questionable. I guess going second, I'd rather just have Heavy Storm. I can't set Heavy Storm because it's obviously not chainable to Bestiari like MST is. But the Heavy Storm, I think, is just better going second because I can storm his back rows. Obviously, that's what it does. But storm Solemn specifically, and then make it so my Solemns are live. Imagine in the first hand if I had this Heavy Storm to make it so that the Solemn didn't stop that oppression. So definitely that switch seems reasonable. The Brain ended up being important because he has Reaper in his deck, which is pretty much standard, but it's useful to just verify that. Yeah, I think I'm okay to Reaper. I've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 reasonable outs. I guess 5 if you consider Ryza. Soul Exchange 2 actually is an out. So yeah, I can just Soul Exchange if it's face up on the board, not even have a Monarch either because it will target and destroy it. So I have plenty of outs to that. But we'll see what ends up happening here. Alright, this is an interesting hand. Definitely an interesting one. This would be one of those hands where if I drew Soul Exchange, it would just be incredible because I go Soul Exchange the Stalos. That would, put me back at a good position. Okay. That's a little annoying because I don't really want to set guard when he has Stratos. I might do it anyway, but I don't really want to do that. Obviously, that would just generate card advantage, but, if he can't deal with the prohibitions, does the card advantage part matter as much? There was some debate to that, so, all right. 2 back rows, 3 back rows, all right. 4 back rows, yeah, that's tough. That's going to be tough to beat. That's obviously not a very good one. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I don't know if I even Prohibition here. Maybe I just set guard and pass. He would have to have Prisma Test, literally Prisma Test Dagger in his hand to really beat that. Gives me a chance to draw heavy, gives me a chance to, potentially draw something because we're looking at presumably Solemn Judgments, we're looking at MST, Dust Tornado, those type of cards. I don't really see the value in just shotgunning the Prohibition. Maybe I could just to bait out the MST. It would simplify the quantity of back rows, and he would... There's a chance, though, he doesn't even use MST or Dust Tornado on the Prohibition, though, until the turn that he needs to go off. So I don't think that that's the best idea. Just setting this guard might honestly just be the play. It's a little bit annoying because if he summons Prisma next turn, first, he can attack the guard. I guess at that point I bounce the Prisma. What I was thinking here is the fear is I bounce the Stratos. It actually still would happen though if he... It's actually the opposite of what I first thought. If he does not summon the Prisma, I have to bounce the Stratos, and he summons the Prisma, and on the next turn can summon the Stratos and pop a Prohibition, which is really bad. So it is a little bit of a concern to that, which is why it's actually probably not a good idea to just shotgun a Prohibition on anything. I still think I should probably use the guard, though, because otherwise he's just going to get in with both monsters. Maybe I should just let him attack for 34, or 35 rather, and then set guard on the next turn, just not set anything, but that I feel like a little bit of a risky path. So I'm going to set the guard. I don't love it, but I feel like it's hard to just justify not setting anything, because then all he has to do is draw any Glad, and then he has the Prisma on board, and he just sets a Glad and goes into Geyseris. I guess I could play Prohibitions. At that point, I'd almost want to just double Prohibition. This is another thing that can happen, by the way, is he just respects Jujutsu Master. So, okay. I like this. I love Blind Mind Crush. Alright, I do not have that. I have a lot of respect for the Blind Mind Crush. What this is telling me is he is just dead to Prime Material Dragon. That's the reason he would do something like this. Is he just has no outs to it. Yeah. So I'll make him discard this. Okay, Prisma. So he probably has a random Glad set. That's why that happened. Huh. Go to main phase 1. I think the Stalos is probably the better Monarch to just summon this turn, because I don't really have any good reads on any of the other cards he has going on here. But it is interesting to do that. I mean, he probably has Judgment, but he probably only has one Solemn Judgment. And it would make it so that the other two cards he has might be things like MST and Dust Tornado. So he's thinking to himself, well, how am I going to lose from this position? It's if I just chalk on Prime Material Dragon right here. And he's forced to Solemn Judgment, and he might not feel like that's a good value at all. He wouldn't set 4 back rows just without Solemn Judgment. I think what I'm going to do here is use the guard, bounce this, what I think is just a random Glad to the hand, and then summon a Monarch. I think that's probably the best way, and I think the Stalos is the better Monarch to summon here, again, because I think if I target something random with Ryza, it might get chained, it could be a bottomless. I'm going to flip this, bounce the set monster to the hand. I mean, he could Judgment this, but I think it's better to Judgment. Yeah, okay. Then we'll summon the Stalos. I'll wait to see if he Solemns. All right. Maybe he just doesn't have Solemn, which would be a little surprising. Yeah, so this was the Glad that I said that he set. Okay, now he bottomlesses. Yeah. So, like, if I summoned Rise, I would have had to have targeted one of those, and I feel like that's, not the best thing in the world to do. Here, double Prohibition. I don't know, is there anything worth calling here? He probably had the Hop in his hand on the first turn, like he opened Stratos, Hop, or Rhoda. He Rhoda'd, right? Yeah, Rhoda with Hop, and those are the 2 cards he kept in his hand on the first turn. But he opened up set Mind Crush bottomless, right? So we could see these being things like... that must be a mistake, right? Yeah, okay. It's like, what is this? There's no Dust Tornado activation. What we're trying to figure out is what these two would be, right? Bottomless is very logical. It's partially one of the reasons we didn't summon the Ryza, because he Mind Crushed the Prime Material Dragon, which makes it so that a card like Bottomless not being able to get rid of the Prime Material Dragon makes sense, right? That's logical as one of the back rows. It's also very logical that one of these is spell a trap removal card. What's interesting here is I really kind of want this Reckless Greed to happen. What do we think about setting Prohibition? Just setting Prohibition, which is like crazy risky too, because if he goes into Bestiari, he can just pop it, which is really bad. I probably just lose there. That's a little too fancy for me right now, is to just set Prohibition. What if I double Prohibition Bestiari twice? That way, if one of these is MST, there's just no way he goes into it. And it's unlikely that he would have pro-set Heavy Storm. I mean, he might have, but even if he did, is that really that big of a deal? Because he's going to kill his Storm plus another back row versus my double Prohibition. I don't think that that's a bad thing. So I'm going to activate this. I'm going to call Bestiari. I'm going to activate this. I'm going to call Bestiari. And I will set the Reckless. I'll give him the opportunity to Typhoon it. I don't think he'll Typhoon it end phase, but he could. It's what he's thinking about right now. Do I think I can win on the back of Stratos is what he was pondering there for a second. All right. Take the 28. Soul Exchange would be really good here. Brain Control would be really good. Those type of cards would be really good. All right, you set another back row. Okay, so ask and you shall receive, huh? Wow, okay. So now I'll Brain the Stratos and attack the Sangan. And then Ryza a random back row. That's probably the best thing to do. You will search Reaper, though, which I do not currently have an out to. So there's a little bit of a risk there, with just letting him go into Reaper, but there's no good way around it. I could Brain the Stratos and immediately tribute for Ryza and target the Sangan. That's not really a good use of Ryza, because he just sets the Sangan on the... I'd rather spin a back row, because if it's a chainable back row like MST, I can at least tack the Sangan, or maybe even just leave the Sangan on the board. That's an option too. Force him to crash, gets rid of his normal summon. There's some discussion for that being useful, but I don't know, I might start making those decisions after I Brain. I'm pretty sure Braining the Stratos is probably better here, though. So if I set the Mask, I'm taking... He's probably going to assume that it is Mask. I'll take another 18. I don't really want to take an 18. I'd rather just use the Brain Control here. Because if he Solemns it, then the attack of the Sangan directly, like he Solemns specifically the Ryza. He's not going to Solemn the Brain. He would Solemn the Ryza. At least it's unlikely he would Solemn the Brain. If he Solemns the Ryza, I can take... I'd be down to, what, 44? I could take 1,000 here and not worry. So I think I'm going to play the Brain. Obviously, good draw. He's probably going to say that in the chat. I'm going to target the Stratos. You can go Book it. Book is a... Yeah, I was about to say Book. Yeah, that's a logical one, because what makes that so logical is that that's another card that's not an immediate out to Prime Material Dragon. So this is either Solemn Judgment, or he actually just opened up Bottomless Book, Mind Crush, plus whatever this is, which is, I actually think, MST at this point, which is kind of interesting, without Solemn Judgment. Here, you actually will Reckless Greed, because I'm going to set the Mask. I don't have any traps in the grave, so I am in a Reckless Greed here to get 2 draws. That way I have a trap in the grave to revive off the Mask of Darkness. And I could draw, a variety of pretty awesome cards here. Allure interesting. Crush. Oh, man, that makes things complicated. Wow. What if I set the Allure and the Crush Card Virus to present the illusion? Oh, the problem if I set Mask plus both of these, he'll know that this is Mask Ryza. I would love to present the illusion of Jujutsu Master to make it so he doesn't attack, so I can flip it and Crush Card it. Oh, this is tough, because if I crush the Mask, I won't be able to get the Reckless back, and I'm already obviously locked for the next 2 turns. Huh. What about alluring the Mask? He has 2,800 worth, so 2 attacks would be game. I would lose to that. The problem with just getting... The problem with just getting back Reckless Greed is if, with my current hand, Like, he attacks, right? I get back Reckless Greed, sure. My hand is Reckless Greed, Rise, Allure, Crush. That doesn't do anything. He attacks directly for 28 after attacking for 18 this past turn. Right, because he's going to attack Sangin into this Mask of Darkness right now. And then Stratos directly. Drops me to, what, 26? The following turn, I set Reckless and I just lose because he attacks me for 28. So it's actually not okay to do that. Which means my option with this Mask of Darkness is only to use the Crush Card Virus. Crush Card Virus is the Stratos, 1-for-1s there. If this is Solemn, though, he's going to Solemn the Crush. And I lose. Because then he hits me for 28, and I have to Blind Alert with just Riser in hand, which is obviously not a great position to be in. So what is the universe where I play this Allure of Darkness? Because this card is just so dead right now. If I don't draw something that deals with this, I'm going to lose. But if I draw Spy, awesome position. Unfortunately, I don't have a guard to search, though. If I draw Soul Exchange, great position. If I draw even just like any trap, Solemn Judgment would be pretty good. I would need, unfortunately, Solemn and a monster, though. And it's tough. It's tough. It's almost like I would need 2 perfects off the top. What about setting Crush, setting Mask, and playing Allure with Riser in hand? That's an unorthodox play. I would need a Dark plus something good. And then I could fall back on just a Mask. What's actually interesting is if I'm going to Mask the Crush Card Virus, Mask Crush here, if that's the play that I think is the best, it's actually better to use the Allure right now, too. So what I mean is set the Mask, set the Crush, play the Allure. Because if I were to do this play, and this is Solemn, I'm committed to using the Allure blank on the next turn anyway. And if I use the Allure now, maybe there's something better off the top I can draw, like my own Solemn Judgment. That's tough. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm just going to draw like Oppression off the top and just not be in good shape. I could draw Reckless Greed off the top, though. So I have double Reckless, 2 Spies. Night Assailant's pretty good, actually. I would be alright with Night Assailant. What else would be a good draw? I took out the Sangin. What else would be a good draw? Mirror Force, I would probably take Mirror Force unless he has the Solemn, which unfortunately I think is probable still. Still think this is Solemn, but let's see. What else would be decent? Jujitsu Master would be just incredible right now. 30 cards. I have like double Soul Exchange is good. Double Jujitsu Master. Double Spy, so that's 6. Double Reckless I would accept. So that's 8 good cards out of 30 right now. Cyber Valley I think is a medium draw. It probably allows me to survive a little bit, so that's 9. I could just draw another Mask and be put into the same position. That's 10. Night Assailant is passable. That's 11. Mirror Force is probably not good enough, but it's definitely something to consider. So I have like 11 good draws right now that I can just think of off the top of my head. I just don't think setting the Mask and getting back to Reckless is going to win. So I'm going to do... I am going to do this because if Mirror Force is off the top, at least I have the Mask of Darkness to banish. So I'm going to play this Allure. All right. Wow. Okay. That is fascinating. Wow. So I'm on the Reckless Greed, but do you Heavy Storm from here? You might Heavy Storm from here. Just play the Heavy, Soul Exchange the Stratos, spin the Sangin, let him set the Sangin, and then we're just top decking a parody and I have a Riser on board. I guess I have a Crush card, maybe the top card is... Yeah, I think I do. I think I Heavy Storm here. I think I do. I'm really interested to see if he just set 4 back rows on the first turn. See if this is Solemn. Maybe he knows I don't main deck the Heavy and I side it, and he's like, what are the odds he actually will ever have Heavy? So he just sets all his back. Wow, alright. Alright. So that was Solemn. Okay. So we'll now Soul Exchange this. And he just torrentials. Alright. Hopefully he doesn't have... What can you get? Reaper here. Random Glad. He can't go into Bestiari. No 2 draws is Not good. I think I just lose, right? Yeah, that's game. Yeah, I lose here. He's going to get any random Glad, attack with the Glad, go into Laquari, and then 220, 100 attacks. This is just game. Yeah. So that Torrential is tough there. Yeah. Well, we made it interesting at the end. Yeah, that's just game. I'm at 44. I don't have 2 draws. Yeah. I still stand by what I did there at the end. I think it was obviously it would have been pretty sweet if that Heavy Storm went off. So he did. So when he Minecraft, he did have a Solemn. He probably just didn't want a Solemn. But he had 2 cards, like I said, that were cards that did not stop Prime Materia. Yeah. Yeah. So he attacks, goes into Laquari. I miss a draw. I missed my second. No. That's game. That's game. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is game. That doesn't even matter. Like, it was game before then. Yeah. Anyway. That's Giorlando for Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Thank you for watching. The anti-Gladiator Beast deck fell to Gladiator Beast, but that was a pretty interesting matchup. Had some interesting decisions here in Game 3. I still think they were pretty good games, but thank you for watching. It's Giorlando for Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Check back soon for plenty more Yu-Gi-Oh! content.